On February 23, 1973, Elvis Presley stepped on stage in Las Vegas, looked at his band, and stated 5 words that made everyone stop. "You are all out of work. Leave." The next 30 minutes were the most crazy, dramatic, and revealing of Elvis's time in Vegas. The band left. The crowd was quiet and shocked. Then, Elvis performed something that no one saw coming. That made the disaster the most talked about show in Vegas history. This is the narrative of the night Elvis lost it, why he lost it, and what it showed about the stress that was killing him. The International Hotel in Las Vegas on February 23, 1973, Elvis was in the middle of his 2-month stay, doing 2 shows a night, 7 days a week. The routine was hard, and Elvis was worn out. But that's not the reason he dismissed his band on stage. The cause was something much more personal and hurtful. The show had begun as usual. Elvis stepped out in a white jumpsuit. The crowd went crazy, and he started his first song. But there was something wrong. Elvis's voice sounded tired. He was going more slowly than usual, and the band members recognized the expression in his eyes. They had seen it before when Elvis was about to lose it. Elvis stopped singing in the middle of the 3rd verse of Suspicious Minds. The band kept playing for a few seconds, but then they stopped when they realized something was amiss. Elvis turned to look at them, with his back to the 2,000 people in the audience. Elvis said, "You're all fired," in a hard, flat voice. "Leave." The members of the band stared at each other in confusion. Was this a joke? Sometimes Elvis had a strange sense of humor, but when they saw his face, they realized he was serious. James Burton, Elvis's main guitarist and one of his closest musical partners, spoke up. "What are you talking about, Elvis? I told everyone to go. You're finished. The show is over." People in the audience started to talk. What was going on? Was this a part of the show? The piano player, Glenn D. Hardin, got up from his keyboard. We're in the middle of a performance. There are 2,000 individuals here." Elvis yelled, "I don't care about the people," and his voice broke with anguish. "I care that my own band doesn't even have the decency to be on time." That's when everyone knew what this was actually about. 3 of the band members had been late for the afternoon rehearsal earlier that day. Not that late, perhaps 10 or 15 minutes. Elvis, on the other hand, had been waiting, and at the time, those 15 minutes felt like a huge betrayal to him. "We were late to practice by 15 minutes, James Burton said it carefully. "We said we were sorry. We thought we were done with this. You are constantly late. You act like I'm nothing, like my time doesn't count, and that I'm simply a paycheck to you." It was more intricate than that. Elvis was going down. He had just been divorced from Priscilla. 2 weeks before, she had told him she was leaving him. Elvis was heartbroken, and everything felt like it was aimed at him. The band was 15 minutes late to rehearsal, but it wasn't really about that. Elvis felt alone, disrespected, and out of control in his own life. But the musicians didn't know that. They only knew that Elvis was really angry and had just fired them in front of 2,000 people. James Burton responded, "Fine," and put his guitar back in its stand. "That's how you want it." The other members of the band did as he said. They stopped playing and walked off stage. No fighting, no asking for their jobs back. If Elvis wanted to fire them in front of a crowd, they weren't going to let him have the fun of arguing about it. The audience was completely confused when Elvis's whole band left the stage. Some people felt it was a little piece of performance art, but the folks in the front rows could see Elvis's face and realized it was real. Elvis was alone on stage, breathing hard and clenching his fists. He recently let go of his band in the middle of a gig in Las Vegas. What was he going to do next? For around 30 seconds, there was no sound in the showroom. 2,000 people waiting to see what will happen next. Then Elvis went to the mic. "I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. That was unprofessional, and you shouldn't have had to see that. But I need to be honest with you about something. Right now, I'm having the worst time of my life, and occasionally, I don't do things the way I should." The crowd was astonished. Elvis Presley, the most famous person in the world, was on stage saying he was breaking apart. 2 weeks ago, my wife left me. There's nothing I can do about it. She's taking my daughter to California, and I've been trying to keep it together by smiling and doing my best for you all. But tonight, something broke, and I took it out on my band, who didn't deserve it." People in the audience were crying. It was no longer a concert. This was a whole other thing. Elvis said, "I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know if I can continue this show. My band just left, which was the proper thing to do, and now I feel like the biggest loser in the world." Then something that wasn't planned happened. One person in the crowd yelled, "We love you, Elvis." Then another voice said, "You're not a failure." Then someone else said, "We're here for you." The whole audience stood up and clapped in support in only a few seconds. It was one of the most unexpected displays of love Elvis had ever seen. Elvis stood there, crying, because he was so moved by the response. He muttered into the microphone, "Thank you, thanks." But the show had to go on in some way. Elvis looked at Charlie Hodgege, his close friend and rhythm guitarist, who was remained backstage. "Come out here, Charlie." Charlie stepped onto the stage with some hesitation. "What do you want, E? Are you good enough at playing the piano to help me out?" "Not really. I am not Glenn. I don't mind. Just do your best to keep up." Elvis looked at the crowd. "Even though Charlie is a guitar player, he's going to try to play the piano for me. This is going to sound bad, but I'm going to try to finish this show if you stay with me." The crowd cheered and clapped. They weren't going anywhere. What transpired next is now a famous story in Las Vegas history. Elvis did the balance of his 90-minute act with only Charlie Hodgege on piano, playing chords that Elvis hardly understood. It was a mess. It wasn't flawless, but it was also the most honest performance Elvis had delivered in a long time. Elvis couldn't hide behind the production without the entire band. It was simply his voice, with only a little help, and it was entirely exposed. And there was something about that weakness that made the performance stand out. He asks, "Are you lonely tonight?" I rewrote the lyrics in the middle to be about Priscilla leaving. He says to a woman in the front row who reminds him of Priscilla, "I can't help falling in love with you." People cried when he sang gospel music. Elvis chatted to the crowd like they were his therapists in between songs. He talked about his childhood, his mother, being famous, and being alone. He was completely honest and said things that his bosses would never have let him say if they could have stopped him. "You know what the worst thing about being famous is?" At one point, Elvis asked. "Everybody wants Elvis. No one wants Elvis, the guy, the person. They want the performance, the story, and the picture. But the man underneath is dying inside. And no one sees it because everyone is too busy yelling." The administration of the International Hotel was freaking out behind the scenes. This was a mess. Elvis had let his band go. He was going on and on about his feelings on stage. The show was a disaster. They wanted to stop it, but they couldn't. The audience was completely drawn in. There was a knock on the stage door after roughly an hour. James Burton came back out with his guitar. He said, "E, we shouldn't have left. We want to conclude the show with you." Elvis had tears in his eyes as he stared at his lead guitarist. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have let you go. I was hurting you because I was in anguish. I get it. That's why we came back." One by one, the other members of the band came back on stage. They grabbed up their guitars and, without saying a word, started to play Bridge Over Troubled Water. Elvis gave it his all as he sang it, and as he reached to the last lyric, his voice was as powerful and clear as it had been in years. All of the pain, the weakness, and the emotional collapse went into that one performance. After the song was over, the crowd stood up and clapped for Elvis for 10 minutes. People were crying. Elvis was in tears. Some of the band members were even sobbing. Elvis spoke to the crowd one last time. "Thanks for being with me tonight. Thanks for not leaving when you saw me at my worst. I assure you that I will get better. I'll get better, and as long as you want me to, keep performing for you." Elvis visited with the band alone after the show. "I am not letting you go. That was the agony that said that. You all are family, and I'm sorry I forgot that." James Burton stated, "We know you're going through hell with Priscilla. We should have been more understanding. No, you were only 15 minutes late. I need to clear my head." People rapidly learned what had happened that night. Reporters who were in the audience reported about it. People who had seen the show told everyone they knew. The tale spread like wildfire. That night, Elvis had a breakdown on stage, which made it the best show of his life. Colonel Parker was very angry. The next day, he yelled at Elvis, "You can't have emotional breakdowns in front of paying customers. It's not professional." That could be the most professional thing I've ever done. Being real instead of fake. The event showed something essential about Elvis in 1973. He was barely able to keep it together. His marriage had ended. The prescribed medicines were starting to hurt his body. It was hard for him to keep up with the burden of keeping up his image. And that night, everything fell apart. But it also showed something else. People liked Elvis even more when he stopped trying to be Elvis Presley and just being Elvis. The people that were there that night will never forget it. I've seen Elvis sing 100 times, but that night in February 1973, when he fell apart and then pulled himself back together in front of us, was the night I really got to know him. Not a superhero or a legend, but a man who is having a hard time like the rest of us. James Burton later said the night impacted how he felt about Elvis. "Before that, I worked for them. Then I knew I was a friend. Elvis needed friends more than he needed workers. And I only realized that after he fired us." That night, when Elvis fired his band on stage, could have been a tragedy that hurt his reputation. Instead, it turned out to be one of the most human moments of his career, a time when the mask broke and people saw the true person behind it. Elvis connected with his fans on a deeper level than any perfect performance could have, because he was open about his pain and struggles. If this tale about Elvis's breakdown and rehabilitation made you feel something, please subscribe and give it a thumbs up. Give this to someone who needs to know that it's acceptable to break down sometimes. Have you ever lost control in front of other people? Please leave a comment to let us know. Hit the notification bell to get more Elvis stories that illustrate the real person behind the mythology.